Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. We invite coaches, athletes, and industry leaders in our community who are willing to open up about their setbacks and successes to educate and inspire our listeners. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn. And on today's episode, we have the international man of mystery himself, Facundo Etchecolatz. Facundo is one of our favorite people in the entire world. He's been a big part of our Power Monkey community for a number of years. And his story is one like no other. I like to think of Facundo as really the most interesting person in the world. That Dos Equis man from a number of years ago commercial. Facundo is the real life version of that guy. He's had so many different roles within his own personal life, working for European Parliament, having gone to Juilliard, having gone to medical school, having opened up boxes all over Belgium. And now he's actually in the coaching world. He has worked for CrossFit for a number of years, and now he is one of the top CrossFit coaches for a number of the higher level athletes within not only Europe, but also around the world. He's doing that full time now. He still makes time to come out and be a part of our Power Monkey staff. We are grateful for an opportunity to speak with Facundo now that he's such a big time coach within the CrossFit community, but we love him and we hope that you guys find his story as interesting as we have. Enjoy. This episode of the Power Monkey Podcast is brought to you by TrueCoach. I am a huge fan of TrueCoach. I've been using it for a number of years. In fact, a lot of our Power Monkey coaches use TrueCoach as well to train their online and in-person clients. There are so many features that are worth talking about here, but the great thing is you can shave hours off of your administrative work. You can easily track your clients' data, check in to see which workouts they've been doing, which ones they haven't yet. And one of the great features that I really love is the video implementation. So we've actually put our entire Power Monkey video database directly into TrueCoach so that when we assign exercises to our clients, we know that they're doing the exact exercise that we want. And they also have the ability to upload videos of their training sessions so that we as coaches can give them direct feedback on their movement patterns. It's the best service that I've found when it comes to training clients both online and in person. The days of using spreadsheets and email, YouTube videos, text messages are in the past. This is a great way to be able to update the way that you work with your clients. I highly recommend checking it out. You will not be disappointed with TrueCoach. So if you're a trainer that has never tried TrueCoach before, you can do a 2-week free trial period, and you can get 50% off your first month with the promo code PowerMonkey50. That's POWER Monkey50. Get onto TrueCoach, and I guarantee you're going to be working with your clients at a whole new level. All right, Facundo, what's up, my man? How are you?
I'm very fine. I'm very happy being here with you guys. It's been more than a year that I haven't seen you, Dave and Chad. So I'm super excited.
It's way too long. You know, we have so looked forward to not only having you at camp, but also coming to visit you out in Brussels. And the fact that we haven't been able to do it in a long time sucks. So I'm hoping that as things open up, we can see you soon. But I don't think the world, our listeners, know enough about you yet. And that's what I want to get across with today's episode is give people an understanding of who this international man of mystery is. In my mind, when I first met you and then started to learn a little bit more about you, you kind of embodied a real person version of the Dos Equis man, like most interesting man in the world.
Oh, for sure.
Oh boy.
Do you not remember those commercials?
Yeah.
Did you ever see those?
I'm already feeling uncomfortable. If you describe me like this, I have very large shoes to fill. So
yeah, the things that you've done in your life and how incredible all of you are at everything, you've always come across as this person who's just like a standout in every area that you do. You know, you speak 5-6 languages. You've lived all over the world. I don't want to go into it, all of it, but you are one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life.
Okay,
and
well, thank you.
We want to go into this a little bit. So
that's why we are friends, right? No?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
exactly.
I think you are one of the most incredible people that I know. So Chad, you're also included. No, but I know.
Hey, I'm always a close second to Dave, so I've become good with that. I just accept it at this point in my life.
Okay.
But the first thing that I want to know, Facundo, is do you actually drink Dos Equis?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Facundo. So for those of you who aren't watching the video here, Facundo just pulled out a martini glass And Facundo's much more of a gin and wine guy, I would say, than he is a beer guy. Is that appropriate to say, Facundo?
That is very safe way to describe me.
Well, I didn't realize it was going to be that kind of recording. I would have had me a Dos Equis ready to go. So I may have to take a break and go get one here in a minute.
Well, Chad, it's 8 p.m. here. So
yeah, I was going to say.
I mean, it's the right thing to do at this time.
It is the absolute right time, but I'm not opposed to doing it at it's 1 o'clock here my time. I'm not opposed to that either. So
we did have Facundo, we did have a podcast a couple of weeks ago with someone who told us that having a couple beers a night with Jamie Shear.
Of course, and she's a doctor.
Having a couple beers a night was okay for Chad. So he was like, "This is great. I'll have it whenever. If we're doing midday podcast, we're gonna have a beer midday. That's absolutely fine."
That's right.
You know what? I think that there are things that are good for the soul.
Oh,
I mean, you can have carrots for your eyes. You can have all the things for your joints, for your muscles, for the hair, for whatever. But you also need to take care of your soul. And,
absolutely.
That's what I try to do very often.
So before we get into the questions about you, I want to know about your drink, the one you have there. Tell me how you like your martini. What do you got in there?
Oh, it's very simple, actually. I have three. I do it a bit lighter. So it's 3 doses, three portions of dry martini. Here it's called Neuilly Prat. So it's a martini that is a little bit drier with one portion of gin. But I try to change the gin according to the season. Now it's getting warmer here, so it's something more herbal, more fresh. You know.
Oh yeah. You and Chris love your gin. So look at that. You even change your gins according to the season. That's professional style right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I know.
I love it.
That's gin dependent style kind of. You know? just to be able to change it, not to feel so guilty that you're always buying the same.
Maybe we'll have that drink ready to go at the party on Friday night at Power Monkey Camp. I'm gonna bartend again.
Have a bartender.
I might need to make it there.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, Facundo, we know we miss you at camp, and let's go into a little bit of a story on how we just got to know each other, so people can get some perspective on where you are now and kind of how we met. So, what was it?
Do you remember?
2013 CrossFit Games?
It's 2014. And
2014.
I mean, everybody who knows me and knows that I do CrossFit somehow, not as an athlete, of course, knows about you, because this story has been said over and over, but I will repeat it gladly because it's very appropriate for today. So I was a volunteer at the CrossFit Games 2014. And to be honest, I like CrossFit, but I knew that Froning was an idol. I knew that Annie was from Iceland and blonde and super strong. Everything else about the sport, I didn't know. So I remember that in between all the times that I was bringing coffee to the media team, I got a free time, and I went to the vendors village. And I have bought the book of a gymnast that was there making like in a stand. Carl, yeah. And so I bought the book, and I was online to make him sign the book. And I saw Dave there with the Power Monkey t-shirt, actually, and I have the picture still. And immediately I left the line, and I jumped into poor Dave. Like a groupie, like a fan, imagine you see a Hollywood star, and I was like, I'm your big fan. I saw all your videos, and I'm like this, and I guess that Dave might have felt a little bit uncomfortable there, and like just now I spoke so much, and I told him, you come to Europe, you need to come to Europe. I arranged for you to come to Europe, and then he said to me, well, you know what? I'm actually going to Europe with my girlfriend back then. In a couple of months, and I'm going to give 2 back-to-back seminars on the weekends in Amsterdam. And I was like, okay, so I tell you, you finish the seminar, you take the train, and you come to Brussels, and you stay at my place, and I drive you back the following weekend. And incredibly enough, and that is what Dave said, okay.
Yeah.
And,
nice.
I am incredibly open to people's suggestions to come and visit them in Europe. Sadie and I always talk about, Facundo mentioned my girlfriend, it's my now wife, Sadie, but we are the kind of people that if someone invite us somewhere, we go. So don't ever say like, come visit us in Brussels, because we will come and stay at your place, Facundo. And just,
I thought it was special. It was something between me that said, oh man, this guy, poor guy, I need to go, otherwise he's going to jump on a bridge. But thank God you came many times and over, right? And we have fantastic nights. Now the next time, I think it's now Chad's time to come to to visit.
I'm amazed that we still haven't had Chad come out and visit Brussels yet.
Right, it's crazy. I got to get out there.
Well, maybe we have a plan for somewhere else, maybe further, but we can meet the three of us.
You know Brussels so well. You've been living there for a number of years now. You were working for the European Parliament for a number of years, correct? That was up until fairly recently?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And so you had a position, a very high level position within Parliament, but the CrossFit world kind of took hold. Like you were saying back in 2014, you were helping out with the media team, and it kind of evolved into more and more roles. You became a bigger part of CrossFit media staff for the games, doing a lot of the translation, kind of working with the athletes a lot. Can you tell us a little bit more of that transition from that first games into some of the more higher profile roles that you've taken on?
Yeah, so to be honest, everything started a bit earlier. I was in Berlin as an attendee to the CrossFit Invitational 2013. And then I met Justin Berg, who is still the general manager of the game. So it's just the person that is underneath Dave Castro. And I arrived super early because I really want to meet all the athletes. And when we're chatting with Justin, he said to me, "Oh, so you live here or you live in?" And finally, he asked me, "How many languages do I speak?" And I said, "Well, none well," which is true. But I can a little bit English, a little bit German.
That's a lie. How many languages is it?
None, like all of them mediocre, 5. Yeah. I speak 5 languages.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we started talking about that, and the guy said, "Oh, wow, that's impressive." He left. The show was about to start, and then a couple of minutes later, he came and said, "Hey, bro, we have a bit of a problem. We have the broadcast track with a lot of people speaking different languages, and apparently, so we have our own director, Mike Roth, speaks only English. The director of the camera is from France, Eurosport, and all the cameramen are for Germany. So apparently there is can you come and give us a hand?" So I left my VIP seat that I fought very hard to have. I went to the broadcast track, and then I was like translating all this frenziness, because a broadcasting track is very, very crazy place. And I remember that the French woman was like, "Thruster, c'est quoi thruster? Big movement, small movement, a barbell." And I was, "No, it's barbell, up and down." Okay, so she would actually give instruction to the cameraman how to move and the distance from the athletes. And after that, they called me from CrossFit HQ to start writing articles like a athlete scout. So Yoni Koski, I think, has a future. This is good. This is bad. And that's how I started. And what led me to be a volunteer at the games. And eventually, I was very, very lucky to be given more and more responsibilities that I gladly took.
Mm-hmm. And along with those responsibilities came more involvement with Power Monkey. Now, yeah, you were a camper.
Yeah.
But along with being a camper, I really don't remember the timeline exactly, but along with being a camper, you went from a camper to an intern. And then from an intern, you became part of our staff coaching. You became an actual coach at Power Monkey. And then you also traveled with me a ton. You maybe came to like 10, 15 seminars with me around the world.
At least,
we went to Kuwait together. We went all over Europe. You came with me so many places around the world teaching, assisting me on my gymnastics seminars. But then more importantly, you started teaching with Chris Hinshaw with the aerobic capacity seminars. Can you talk a little bit about your jump from working with media to actually the coaching side of things, and how kind of Power Monkey kind of facilitated that?
Yeah, for sure. So once I want to be a coach, but what media really allowed me to is to get close to the athletes and see how they work, how they think, how they prepare, because I was just there next to them the whole time, right? And I was fascinated by the way like somebody prepares him or herself to do a 1 RM snatch, or a gymnastic or a gymnastic workout, or gymnastic oriented workout. And I was very curious, and I was very curious in the psychology and how they prepare themselves, and also what physically they how they were prepared to perform. And I had already done my level 1 the year before, and I invested in opening a box in Brussels. So I had kind of the logistics to become a bit of a coach. But I'm going to make you feel very uncomfortable, Dave. But the truth is that because of the chances you gave me back then, my wish to become a coach and to learn and to be the best that I could, that I still need a long way to go, became from you. Because when I saw you coaching and I saw, you come from the gymnastic world and you have your own baggage of experience on what you expect and how do you implement a class and how to relate to people, something that I never see anybody before doing. And I said, man, that man is really cool. He does moves like nobody else. He teaches like nobody else. And after 5-hour class, people go there and could go to the Olympic Games. I really want to be like Dave Durant without the Olympics. You know, no, but it's the truth. And because of the chances that you gave me back then when you told me, hey, I'm going to be in Europe. If you want to come to assist me, I'll teach you whatever you want to learn. You know, I always find that the generosity that I found in coaches like you, like Chris, is unrivaled, and it's certainly the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now and why I left my life in the parliament. I'm also a psychologist. I never work as such because people like you inspire me, and not just that, you guys gave me a chance to, you know, to do so. So the transition came by inspiration for people like you or like Chris or any of the coaches in Power Monkey. When I went there as an attendee, you know, all the stations, and I was like, the complex thing about camp is there is so much information, and all the coaches are so cool, and you just want to spend 5 hours a station, and then the week goes so fast, and you want to go back again. But Power Monkey, it's without any doubt the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because of the inspiration and the chances you guys gave me.
Well, Facundo, that means the world to us.
But you know that already, because I always try to tell you that, right?
I appreciate that very much.
I'm very annoying.
I wanted the whole world to hear that, so thank you so much for saying that.
I will post it on my Instagram today. Don't worry.
Thank you so much for saying that. But go ahead, Chad. I think you wanted to say something.
No, I'm just sitting here, you know, wondering the conversation that you and Facundo had before the recording. You set him up and told him what to say, right?
Paying him off, man. Paying him off. I got gin being sent to his house as we speak.
No way. It's absolutely true what you say, Facundo, for sure. And, you know, as you were telling that story and going through everything, you know, something I've never heard is really the backstory from all of that stuff. Why CrossFit in the first place? You know, where did CrossFit come from for you? And why were you so intrigued at whatever point to go to the CrossFit Games and to try to be a part of it in this way?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say. I don't have any sport background at all, like zero, like really, really bad. I was kind of a nerd, like super nerd actually. And I don't know. I remember that I saw people doing barbell, you know, moving a barbell. And for me, barbell is just Olympic Games, 120 kilo, like male athlete, 200 kilo snatch. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And I saw people going there. And I remember that one of the first classes that I did was in New York at like 4:15, the times that only in New York you have a class in the morning, 5:15 a.m. And there were people like, and I felt that people in that 60 minutes will leave all the troubles away, you know, and not just that, but even be happy with the outcome. And I found it, I studied psychology 7 years, so a long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm always very curious on how people relate to the day, to their life, to their goals, to their whatever they want to do. And I felt there was a lot of achievement, personal achievement in CrossFit. And that I was always curious. And then things went very fast. I mean, Dave to Power Monkey to, you know, to whatever came after that. I could not say much. I could say that I was so much in love that everything went so fast, and now we are here. Somebody told me the other day, I have to say, Facundo did a lot of things, but you have not made it until you made it to the Power Monkey podcast.
Absolutely.
So, that's absolutely
no. So
you've made it. I'm surprised it took us this long to get you on there.
I know. Where have you been? It's almost been a year and a half since we've been going, huh, Dave? I can't believe it.
I think it's his new schedule now. It's impossible to get Facundo nail him down because he's got so much going on still.
It's been a very nice year. I mean, it's been a terrible year for humankind with everything that we went through. And, you know, well, I know Dave has a daughter same age as mine, and when I see how my daughter is being raised now in this environment, you know, she doesn't see smiling from people anymore, just masks. Mm-hmm. And so it's been very brutal in Europe, especially in Belgium. Belgium was one of the three countries that were most affected by infections at the very beginning. Boxes are closed since March last year. But I have to be paid that I was very lucky, to get a lot of very interesting offers and being contacted by very fit athletes to guide them on their training. So it's been good in that sense for me.
Absolutely. I mean, so I want to talk about what you're doing now, and I think that that's kind of the most relevant since you've transitioned into being, like what we talked about. You went from being an assistant at the media part of CrossFit Games to an intern at Power Monkey Camp to part of our staff, and now you are the premier CrossFit coach in Europe. You are the go-to resource when it comes to coaching. And I wouldn't even say in Europe, because you have a lot of American top athletes under your roster now. And it's incredible to see how far you've come in this period of time. But can you talk a little bit about what it's like now coaching some of the top athletes? And we could talk a little bit about what's going on with the Open and the quarters and semis coming up. But I'm curious what it's like for you now being able to, take on a full roster of athletes and be one of the top coaches that's in the community.
Okay, so I think that I'm still learning, so I will put myself very underneath that very fantastic spotlight that you gave me, but doing my best. Yeah, 2 years ago, I got a message. I met Fronin through Hinshaw and through you, actually. Remember, Dave, we went to Cookville many years ago to gymnastics. I have to tell a very funny story about that later. And we met Rich there, and then Hinshaw allowed me to work with him, as a friend, and we did some seminars. And I saw Fronin for me was kind of in this way of I work with you, Dave. I learned a lot, and very specific that I didn't learn from anybody else. From Hinshaw, I learned something very specific where he's the king. And then when I met Rich, and I said, okay, so this is the guinea pig where all of these things are happening, right? And this is the guy that displays everything. And very soon after that, I remember perfectly well, mid of May, so like 2 years ago now, a message from Fronin said, do you want to be our coach for the games this year?
The Mayhem
Mayhem
team
Freedom,
coach. Yeah.
Team. And I remember that I woke up and, can you imagine, I was frenziness. I didn't answer the whole day because I didn't know what to answer, actually. Because I didn't want to be like desperate. I didn't want to sound like very cold. So the day went by, and my Chris said to me, you didn't answer? I didn't know what to answer. It's so unpolite. They will believe that you don't have any interest. So, but then I had the chance to start working with them, and I saw how many of the things that I've been learning from you guys could come together. I saw what they brought, and I saw what it could offer them from what I learned from you, and how I mixed and how I understood that methodology. So Rich gave me an incredible opportunity. And after that, I don't know, people start contacting me. And nowadays I'm coaching, you might know the Panchik siblings, Saxon and Spencer. They contacted me 1 year ago, and they're super fit people. And I was not going to mess with their fitness. The fitness was already on point. It was just what was missing for them to be where they are now, top 10 in the world. I mean, as Saxon and top 5 in the world, top 6 in the Open in the world. The fitness was already there, but my quest was like, how can I put his fitness at the best for his own performance, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's been a fantastic job. I'm also been working with one of the fittest guys in Greece. It's called Giorgio Karabis. He actually finished first in the European Open, but he got a penalty for the handstand push-ups, actually. Yeah, because his legs were in straddle and were outside of the position of his hands. So he got for 10 handstand push-ups 1 minute 10 of penalty.
Oh wow!
It was the loss. Wow. And it's I'm learning, and it's a process that I'm doing, and I'm very happy to have the chance to do that. But I'm learning. I'm trying to to understand what can I do to guide them into for them going wherever they need to go. It's mostly that, and to me, honestly, when I see an athlete at that level, my first question is not what's the fitness, what's the knowledge they have, is what drives them to be a competitor, what drives them to be there. For me as a coach, if I understand that, I will know better how to work with them. They are athletes that do it for the money, and so I do know a little bit how can I relate, how can I take the best out of them. There are people that just love to train, and the competition is just a consequence of the love of the training. There are many people that want to solve a very bad experience in the past. I was a fat boy, I was a fat girl, I did this, but by being the fittest in the world, I can show the world that I'm not that person anymore. Mm-hmm. By understanding that, to me, I think that it works very well on understanding how can I get the best out of them. If I say to a boy that is or girl, fat, hey, fatty, come on, you are so slow today in this workout. Oh, I'm not going to help that person, right? So I think that my methodology, it's also very psychological. I try to take my athletes as a psychological actor, and through there build fitness, build confidence and knowledge, which is.
And you said you studied psychology for 7 years, right? So
I know.
Again, this comes into your International Man of Mystery, all the things that you've done. I just want to tell, again, the listeners, not only did you go to medical school, you also went to Juilliard, which I think...
1 year only.
You went to Juilliard.
Take it out of the thing.
But it's still amazing. You got into Juilliard. Yeah. It was for piano?
I was piano as a minor, history of music as a major,
Yeah. It's incredible. So just, again, your resume is enough for 10 podcasts, but we'll stay within the fitness realm for this one. Okay. But this idea of spending 7 years in psychology, I mean, you didn't really have an application of psychology when you were working in other areas, but did you feel like I have a resource here that can actually make me into a pretty phenomenal coach that I haven't tapped into yet? So maybe that other coaches don't have this psychology background that gives you an insight into athletes and their drive that maybe some other coaches don't have. Do you think that that's a unique talent?
Yeah, I wouldn't describe it as a talent. I don't think it's unique either. I just said that it's something that I'm interested in and I like to work. I think that any coach who's a little bit curious could find out a model, without having to study many years, that, okay, this person, I'm working with him or with her for X amount of time. I'm not getting where I want to go. That person has the fitness, has the capacity. What is in our communication coach athlete that is not working for that person to be where the coach or that person think that they should be? But I feel, you guys, what I'm going to tell you, you are one of the most successful competitors in American sport history. Being in competition is something very rough. Work through your life just for this maybe 3 minutes, or even in Chad's case, 2 times 10 seconds.
That's right. I'm a little faster than that, but yeah, we get the point.
Yeah, me and Dave is more like 10 seconds.
That's right. That's
right. It is a way that I take my athletes, and also, it's funny to say, but I felt that I need to develop some kind of emotional connection to them. That's why I don't like to do generic programming. That's why I don't like to. I couldn't do it. I couldn't send a program to somewhere and not being able to know what happened to that. Right. So it is a mix, but I'm still learning. So I couldn't say much about if it's the right or the wrong methodology. I'm very happy that these athletes performed very well in the quarterfinals and in the Open, which has been, as many athletes should know or would know, very challenging. These athletes are used to compete on a competition floor with 5 athletes on the right, 4 on the left. Mm-hmm. And to be able to understand their work capacity or their intensity alone with the camera on, nobody else doing anything around you was a challenge for us. So we tackled that at this part of this as this season started.
Yeah, absolutely has been a challenging season for everybody. A new season, something that's different, throws new challenges. But curious from your perspective, Chad, with regards to the psychological aspect of coaching. We do a lot of remote coaching, especially right now, but do you feel like it's pretty imperative from your part to be able to dive a little bit deeper into who the person is and what their goals are and who they are as a person when you're working with people in the same way that Facundo's mentioning with his athletes? Curious kind of what are some steps that you take to try to do that?
Yeah, I don't think I do that enough, to be honest with you. I think by nature, you go back and forth with the person for 6 months or a year, you're going to get to know them better. You're going to get to know what words you can or should say and what you shouldn't, different ways to communicate with them to really direct them in the path that you want them to go. So I think that's kind of something that happens over a longer period of time for me. But at the same time, I'm not a coach in the sense that Facundo is. I am, up front, I'm very upfront with people at this point because I've come to know what I'm good at and what I want to do. And so when someone tries to sign on with me for online coaching, I make sure that they understand that I'm not necessarily a competition coach. If I'm there and I'm around, I'll be glad to help. But I'm, a technical teacher. I want to work with you to optimize your mobility and your movement. I can help you lift more weight, and I can do that on the psychological side too, but not necessarily with that coach athlete deep relationship like Facundo, speaking about it and represents so well. And I want to kind of go back to that, Facundo, because, you mentioned you don't think it's very difficult for any coach to really recognize that, but I don't think it's that easy, really. I think that you're a good example of someone that does it well and that should be an example, and you should be reminding coaches that this is a big part of the game, because for us as coaches, I mean, like I said, I need to be better at it, but we could all use reminders of that, because it's so easy to get caught up in this person needs mobility, this person needs technique, I need to assign these drills and that drills, I need to put this and that and this and that in their program. And like you said before, if you don't even have a base understanding of what drives them, I love how you put that. It was eye-opening to me. It was a great reminder when you said that. But if you don't even have that base understanding of what drives them, and then kind of continually stay on top of that and communicate with them in that regard and feed that for them, then, definitely I can see some potential spinning wheels there,
Look, I think that this year in Europe, the gyms, the boxes closed for many months, and many of my athletes said, well, I have very few material at home. I still want to compete in CrossFit, but I don't have any more the capacity, the desire to train on my own. And I understand many athletes, I understood, and I said, well, I understand, take your time. You come in when you're ready, when you feel that you want to go back to it. But many other athletes that I saw struggling really hard, and I said, well, you know what, why don't we just take this opportunity, and instead of just building fitness, build a stronger mindset. If you are able to make it through and work on your own in these very hard times, I can assure you that when you're on the competition floor and you are facing something that is very terrible, and you come back and said, I was alone in my garage at 7 a.m, warming up, doing the Chatterton warm-up for squatting, super cold, and you went through it, that will build a very strong mindset when you face obstacles. And it was very eye-opening for them to say, yeah, I mean, it's just also I need to build a stronger image of myself as a competitor. And by, going through this step of adapting to these very hard circumstances. And it's been very, very challenging, but very rewarding for many athletes to go through this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree for sure. And I think that's, what you bring up there is a big reason why I struggle in that way as a coach. And I'm always trying to learn and do better, because it's something that came so natural to me as an athlete. Like you said, training alone during quarantine, like that's normal for me. Like that is so easy for me to do. It's one of my great strengths as an athlete. I did most of my training alone, but probably something that I'm sure got in my way a little bit because I took it to the extreme. But that's something that's very easy for me. It's easy for me to do what needs to be done to get better and to get the job done. And it's hard for me to accept, someone struggling with that psychologically and mentally and emotionally and everything else. So it's really good to hear these reminders and everything else. But I want to take this a little bit further in that regard, because one of the things that we kind of come back to every now and then on the podcast is we talk about, what a large number of the Power Monkey coaches are former elite athletes that just so happen to have a talent for teaching and coaching. And so it's that combination that we bring to the table that we feel, and I'm sure you agree, Facundo, is a very strong combination. And it's why Power Monkey is what it is and why it's so successful. And you mentioned earlier that you didn't have an athletic background. And so, we're not ever saying that someone that doesn't have an athletic background can't be a great coach, because certainly you are a perfect example of that. You've come from no athletic background. You've learned these movements. You've learned these processes and how to program and see movement and everything else. And you've become a great coach. But what is your perspective on that? Can we talk a little bit about just, what you feel the differences are in coaches that were elite athletes, whether that is a good thing for them, or maybe they're not a great coach because they were a great athlete. And then from your background, what is it about you? Is it the psychology thing, or are there other characteristics that you have that you feel have allowed you to become as good of a coach as you are?
You get me well there, Chad. There's a lot of questions, but I'll do my best. I would never ever said. For me, there's no experience for a professional, recreational, or whatever athlete that can compare to Power Monkey. The coaches and the team you guys have there, it's unrivaled in the world. I was lucky to travel through the world, and the experience that a person can go and have in Power Monkey is unrivaled. But what I do think, and in my case, what I felt very identified with the athletes is that you guys come from a professional sport in which you started at a certain age, and you were able to understand all the stages that you need to build in order to go somewhere. One of the first things that I learned from Dave, among the many, is he will never allow you to do something more complex if the basis were not strong enough as to maybe perform that correctly, right? And it's something that in CrossFit world we don't have. In CrossFit, it's like whoever goes to the box, some people are more gifted, they acknowledge movement, they move better, they do the first throwdown in a local thing, they put more weight, they put even more weight in 2 years' time, they made it to regionals, then they put more weight and they put more training, they made it to the games, and probably they can win the CrossFit game. However, most of the things they built were without understanding all the process that took them there, or they don't understand maybe how techniques matters to the point of its efficiency. And it's not just the beauty of it, it's just like seeing Dave doing a front upright or a muscle up and say, wow, I want to do just beautiful as he does. It's just like by doing so, you recruit less muscles, you waste less energy, therefore you can perform for more time. So that is the point where we people that don't have a professional background in sport don't understand. We just do stuff and we just move forward and advance as the opportunity appears. But what I try to do with my athletes very often is to make understand, you're building something here, whatever that is, capacity in the rower, understanding how that works, or working on ring support, and why is that external rotation so important? It's not just because it's beautiful or because, it has an effect. And the day you master that, you can even change it if you want. If in time you feel that external rotation is a waste of time, or you have an overhead, imagine ring dips, overhead squat, and that external rotation fatigues your wrist, you can change it. But you can change it already being able to manipulate a very high level of technique, not just because you cannot do anything else, right? That is where, people like me, we never understood. We just went for it. Nowadays, what I'm working on, and I have talked to Dave about it, is, to make people understand that. People understand how can you manipulate a movement to your own convenience for performance, however, manipulate it from the very high standard, and then you can do whatever you want to do. I remember people ask me, how do I run? So imagine I did at least 60 seminars with Hinshaw. So we saw a lot of people run, a lot of people. And some people do toe striking, some people are heel striking, some mid-ball, whatever that is. And there's no one technique. However, what about building an athlete who understands and recognizes different strikes? So if you have a workout in which you have to do deadlift, right? And you say, well, I'm a heel striker, but since I'm doing a posterior chain workout, if I have a workout, deadlift and running, then I go with my toes. So I give my posterior chain some rest. If I have a thruster and running workout, I can, but manipulate them, understanding what's the best standard to it, and then you can do whatever you want to do. And I think, sorry that the question went very long, but I think that is why some people from professional background maybe miss to understand that a recreational athlete that became a CrossFit athlete never understood. So how to build those stages, the importance of that application of technique. However, you guys in Power Monkey are the best coaches in the world, and you all, I mean, how many medals there are? Olympic medals, and how many accolades, you know. I always felt myself the mouse that came out of the, you know, the field and said, I got a station.
It's actually really interesting, Facundo, what you mentioned there is, I mean, I want to give you a round of applause for what you said, because it hits
right.
It hits home to exactly the way that we approach it. I mean, obviously we feel like we've imparted a lot of the way that we think teaching should be done to you, and you've taken that and presented it to the athletes that you work with. But it's exactly right. It's this idea of, one, maybe, you know, the phrase you've probably heard before, do as I say, not as I do, right? Because I'm telling you something and maybe doing something slightly different because you don't understand the reason to that application. Mm-hmm. And it's also really important that I always bring up in my seminars with regards to watching a CrossFit athlete and trying to mimic their movements, and saying, Fraser's doing it this particular way, or Catherine's doing it this particular way, and I have to do it that way because they're the best in the sport. That's not the right approach. You have to ask why. You have to ask more questions as to why that person is doing that particular movement in that particular scenario, and understanding whether or not they're applying a particular technique to allow them to benefit or create more efficiency, or to, like you said, maybe fatigue something less because the requirements of the workout, you know, have other things in it that don't allow them to externally rotate as much as they would want to at the top of the rings. All of these things are so important that you're right that most CrossFit athletes get glossed over with, that a good coach who understands technique can impart at a much higher level. So the fact that you can do it, and Chad, I wanted to bring this up because I think it's very important here. We had Tosh on the episode last week, and he asked us a question about whether or not he's been having some other people think about the same question, about whether or not an elite athlete is the only type of person that can become an elite coach. Do we feel like that's the route to becoming a good coach? And Chad and I were kind of giving our takes on it, and I don't think it's the case. I think an elite athlete can impart something unique to a competitive setting because they've experienced it. But you're a perfect example of someone that didn't come from an elite athlete background, that understands all of the things that we're trying to bring to the next person. It's about education. It's about this willingness to learn. And it's about willingness to dig a little bit deeper as to some of these techniques, as to why they're happening. And so I think, you know, going back to Tasha's question, Chad, you tell me what you think, from last week, Facundo's a perfect example of this idea of an elite coach does not need to be an elite athlete. And I wanted to get your thoughts after hearing what he had to say. I mean, he spoke perfectly to what we would basically impart in terms of the situations that he was talking about with technique.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I've said it millions of times, Facundo, and I couldn't have said it better myself. You did such a great job there, and you're such a great speaker, which makes you. You said you don't speak any of the languages very well, but you are a great communicator. You're a great speaker. You get your points across. You know how to talk to people, and I think another characteristic that you have, or the I guess ability or the knowledge that you have, is the psychological component, because there are aspects of the psychological part of it that I also feel an elite athlete has to impart on someone else. They can relate to them or the athletes in certain ways in the heat of the moment, and competition scenarios, and going through high level of training and everything else. But you also have a leg up on that as well, because you've studied it extensively. And I'd like to talk about psychology a little bit more, since you've mentioned it quite a few times, and we're talking about it now as well. And I'm curious, since you've studied it so much, what has been, one or two of the most important or most impactful or favorite things that you've learned that is, applicable for everyone, one, in life in general, and then two, in CrossFit as an athlete?
Okay, in life will be very challenging. I'll start with the athlete. I've learned. Maybe not even learn. I'm trying to learn how to listen to my athletes. How to listen in the training, how to listen in the results without even talking. How to take whatever they have to give and make me create a space for them to talk. I mean, I have to say, I studied psychology, but I studied neurosciences, so which is the relationship between brain damage and behavior. So my last years in university were more with Parkinson and Alzheimer patients. So I was not a therapist. My sister is a therapist, and she's extremely good. And very often we talk about that. But so the application of it comes, on a manner or a fashion that I created for myself to understand the athletes. But yet again, maybe you guys, Chad, how old were you when you started moving a barbell? 6,
probably
7, 8.
Yeah, no, it was pretty late. I mean, I just started in like 7th grade for football. So I mean, I was a little bit older than a lot of athletes that you'll see. So 12 or 13.
So you're a late bloomer.
Yeah, that's right. Always,
Dave,
always.
Dave, how 6? So guys.
October 12th, 1986.
Nice.
So okay. So maybe you, because you were ingrained on this life, there were many questions that you didn't ask yourselves. What is life without this?
Right.
Dave, you have chalk in your hands since that day. I mean, maybe you will never be able to wash your hands enough to take away all the chalk you use.
Yeah.
Maybe you should, Chad. So, but in CrossFit, people are different. So they don't have the security. They don't have the capacity of going back to all those years of training to use him as an instrument for their performance. So, I mean, it's a very complicated thing to answer, because I don't know, to be honest. I would not be able to say a proper answer. Maybe if you try an answer, a question a bit easier, I will do my best to answer you. But what I can tell you is, like, for me, and I see that it works very well when a coach recognizes the drive and the desire and the environment where the athletes train and why that person wants to put themselves in the competition floor. I don't think there is anything more traumatic than an athlete at work being last on the heat. When everybody came around you, of course, it's great because the audience is cheering at you. You get all the love, which is fantastic. But there must be a part in your ego that I said, man, I really screwed it. I should have finished like 2 minutes ago. Everybody's around me and I feel the love, but so there is a fear from athletes being there. Why would you risk the comfort of your dry martini and your home and your sofa to put yourself maybe there? It's right. I think it's very challenging.
Yeah, it's a tough question for sure. I mean, I don't even want to attempt at answering either one of those questions myself. But like you said, you're still learning. We're all still learning. I think humans are nothing but we're all experimenting every single day, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, every single day. I talk to many of my athletes every single morning. I mean, especially because the pants are 6 hours behind me, so I send the first message in the morning. And they say how they feel, and with them I program on the day. So according to how they feel and the volume they've managed the day before and the results of the day before, we don't have performance days, base days every day. So there are days, which is something that I think lacks a lot in the world today. There are days where we want to produce an adaptation. We want to make it stronger. For example, we want to squat, or we want to create accessories, or we want to even make a workout like Fran, for example. But maybe instead of just looking for a competitive time, to say, you know what, Saxon, I want you to work on, maybe if you always cut in the 21, the 15, and then 6, go to 17. See what happens. See if your fitness accompanies you on this new bet that you are doing. And that day cannot be a performance day. That day is an adaptation day. We need to experiment, so with them, we every morning we said, what we do today? How are you guys feeling? And that I learned that from Frony. Frony is a guy that would come to the whiteboard, look around, and I always get him like
air.
Yeah, exactly. And said, So today we're snatching, and then goes the workout.
Right.
There is a genius because he understands things that maybe many of us don't understand. Otherwise, the guy wouldn't be where he is, no?
Can we jump onto that topic a little bit? I actually wanted to talk about your relationship with Rich, and one of the things that makes you unique in terms of being able to work with athletes is the amount of time that you spent with Rich over the last few years, and not many people get to do that. Not many people get insight into Froning as an athlete, as a person, as much as you have. Can you give us some insight into what makes him unique as a competitor, and what are some of the things that you've learned from your interactions with him?
Yeah, I mean, what makes him unique is he's a clever guy. So one of the things we're going to, please ask me afterwards about training and cleverness and the curiosity that we were talking before. But Rich is a clever guy. He's always been. So even before CrossFit athletes, we have an endurance coach, a gymnastic coach, a weightlifting coach, a nutritionist. He was on his own doing things right because he understood more maybe than what the average athletes did back then. So he also is very good in creating efficiency and how that can be translated and transferred into other movements. He creates workouts very easily, very fast, in which he knows that by doing GHD with a med ball, he's also working on his torso bar. He's also working on, his compression. He's also working in many things, and that's fine. And for what he is and what he needs to perform, he understands that very well. What makes him what he is, I think that is his surrounding, the people that he's surrounded, and that he's a very happy person. I think he's truly a happy person. And the other day, somebody asked me, what is the kind of athlete that is the best athlete? And I said, I think that the best athlete is a happy athlete. The one that has no fears, the one that, is supported by his family, of his environment. And, if you have no fears because you did the job, the work, right? And you go and you face the challenge, but you have the backup of your life that is where you want that to be, the work you put for that performance, so Rich is, it's great. And I'm very thankful, as I'm thankful, Dave, to you and to Chris, because they opened me the door of his house and allowed me to learn and give me opportunities. And he's a very fun guy to be with. I mean, people see it on the shows, and he's a bit cold, but he's very goofy. I mean, today somebody wrote me and said, "Oh, I just saw your video of mayhem in China." We went to China to compete for our sport to the Games 2018 because we messed up with Appaloosa, so we needed to go somewhere else. And the chances were, I think, South America and China, Shanghai. And we were discussing. I was supposed to kind of bring to Rich, these are the options, and we can do this and we can do that. And then he said to me, "Well, you know what? I've heard that in Shanghai they're going to premiere the Avengers 4 days before the States. So if you find me tickets to go to see the Avengers, we go to Shanghai." And I was like, "Are you kidding me, right?" No, man. I've been wanting to watch Endgame for like 1 year. I want to know what happens. And that's what happened. We went to Shanghai the following days. I talked to the organizer of the competition and said, "Hey, Max, actually is one of my athletes who made it to the semifinal in Korea. I'm very proud of him." And I said, "Max, you know what? We are considering coming to Shanghai to compete." I mean, it's always good for a competition to have Froning competing at the competition, right?
Sure.
But you need to really promise me that I will have 6 tickets for the first day, first performance of the Avengers Endgame.
Nice.
Yeah, don't worry. No. You don't understand, Max. It's not a don't worry thing. I want you to swear, or you to commit that you are getting those tickets, because my head is on the chopping board. And that's what we did, actually. So,
oh my goodness, Rich is right after mine. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the exact same thing. Rich is right up my same alley. I love it. But
so that's the way he is, and he's a great guy. He's a very, like, same as you guys. He's a very generous guy who, I really want to say this, even this is not a question that you're asking me. Very often people ask me, what describes a great coach? And to me, a great coach is a guy that, of course, has the instruments to, to pass knowledge and to create fitness and to make people go wherever they want to go. But for me, the guy, someone like Dave, like Chad, like many of the Power Monkey coaches, who are not all only willing to do so, but also to open the space for new people to come in, give them opportunities and teach them everything they got. It's the complete opposite of selfishness, because you guys, what you did with me, Dave, is like, you taught me everything that I asked you to know. I mean, that I couldn't learn from you, because certainly I'm not a gymnast. And you said, yeah, here there is. You want to learn? Come, sit on my seminar, you assist me. There's nothing greater than a coach who has the security of their knowledge to be able to pass it to all the generations to come, And that is something that you, Dave, has, that Chris had with me, that many of the Power Monkey coaches have, and what Rich had, this capacity of giving chances to people, which is, I think, what I'm here now, right?
Yeah. Thank you again, Facundo, for that. And I think Chad will echo the same thing, but that's what our whole mission is. Our whole mission is to be able to pass our belief in proper technique to as many people who are willing to listen. And, Facundo, what made you unique in terms of how far you've gotten with it is your willingness to learn and to, I could offer to 100 people to say, come to Kuwait with me and teach. And almost no one would actually take me up on that. You know what I mean? Like, you went out of your way to actually take the steps necessary to become a good coach. And I think all of us are sincerely grateful for people who are interested in what we do, because, forever gymnastics and weightlifting have been such a niche sport, especially men's gymnastics, that someone like yourself that didn't grow up with it have shown so much interest in what we do, that we want to see that continue. We want to see more people that didn't grow up with it wish that their parents would have put them in gymnastics as a kid, or you want to put Greta in gymnastics when she gets older. And you know what I mean? Like, for us, that means the sport, or weightlifting.
There you go. Thank you.
It means our sports have life, that there's a new path for the next generation to be able to say that gymnastics and weightlifting and these other niche sports have an avenue for people to see how amazing they are and find a passion in the same way that we have. So you're a perfect example of what we try to do on a regular basis through camp, through our programming, through the way that we teach. And Chad, I'm assuming that you would echo that same sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a some coaches maybe have a sense of, if they see someone else teaching a drill that they're using or that they taught them, or if they see someone else another coach using their programming, then maybe they get offended by that. But I never have. Like, I put it out there for a reason. I want people to use it. I want people to learn from it. I get excited if I see another coach giving a drill that I taught them to another athlete. That's the whole purpose of what we do. Like you said, Dave, that's what I want to see. And that's why it's so refreshing for us to be sitting here with Facundo right now, because he's done just that.
Well, let me add you something, guys. What you didn't say, Dave, which is very important, is like, you are building all of that, and we all know how successful Power Monkey is. But we are also building, it's like, I feel now the obligation, for whatever little I know, because of how I was treated, to treat somebody else. I was given these chances by you, by Hinshaw, by Froning, by many other athletes. So now I also feel responsible. So Power Monkey to me is not just like this incredibly high technical level coaching and these opportunities and this whatever Power Monkey is, as great as it is. But now you're also building, and I feel that is the kind of actor that I feel to Power Monkey, that I need to pass by the generosity that I was treated with by you guys, and I think that is the most beautiful of all the, how they call it in English, heritage, so that will pass from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. If we can, create a space where we teach whatever we know, and we give that person a chance, and we nurture that person, and we give him another chance to see how they improve, and if that person did the work, right, and if they perform and they did their job, I think that person in time will say, okay, I was treated with so well by this genius of the sport, and I did my little contribution, but now I feel obliged to do the same. And that was happened to me. Very often young coaches come to me and said, yeah, and I really feel very, very uncomfortable that come to me to ask for advice or to, how is this, how is that? Because I feel like I still need to learn so many things. But whatever little things that I think that I can manage I feel obliged to pass them, right? Also, because as a coach, in a selfish way, it will oblige me to go home and learn more. Otherwise, they will become better than me, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But it pushes me. It pushes me. If I gave this thing that I've been working, now I need to create a new one. Otherwise,
you're right.
I'm going down.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, Facundo. It really is, and it pushes us to not only want to continue to teach technique, but to do it in a way where we're treating people in the same way that we would want to be treated, right? You know what I mean? Like we try to create a family atmosphere with who we're bringing to camp, and the people that we always try to reiterate, like anytime you do something with us at an event, whether that come to a clinic or a retreat or a camp, that you're part of the Power Monkey family. And like, we want people to realize that we really mean that, and that they should want to pass along those things because they feel like a connection to us and from that experience that they've had with us. So I appreciate you saying that, because we really go out of our way to try to make people feel that way.
And you do it very well.
Well, thank you very much. Facundo, I could talk to you for many, many more hours. And the fact that we haven't seen each other in person in over a year really upsets me. But I think we need to do a part 2 and talk about more of your bartending skills and some of the other things in part 2. But would you mind answering a few quick questions before we get you out of here, kind of rapid fire style?
Yes, of course.
And I know, and I'm assuming that you've heard a couple of Power Monkey podcasts before, so maybe
all of them
questions that
there you go,
coming at you. So
every single one of them.
The first one, what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Weightlifting.
All
Nice.
right. See that?
Oh,
Chad?
wow. So I've got like 5 out of the last 6 or so, I think,
Yeah,
Dave.
what's going on here?
I'm sorry, Dave. I got a message from Mike's service yesterday, and it's true.
We need to recount. We need to get an official count on this.
We do. We need to know.
Because I'm very bad at it. Because I'm very bad. I'm a little bit better. I'm very bad in gymnastics, but a little bit better. So I find it like,
I think we're like 70 something episodes in now, Chad. So we definitely have to do an actual count.
Yeah. We need a count.
Next question, Facundo. If there's a guest that we have not had on already, who would you like to see us have on?
Rich Fronin.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You want to facilitate getting in touch with Rich and getting him on?
I'll do my very best.
All right, excellent. Rich is coming at you, listeners. Rich will be
there.
On
You go.
soon.
That'd be awesome. Now, I got to say, Facundo, I'm a little bit sad about how quick Dave got off of the first question. I was
trying really hard to get
weightlifting.
I know.
A little bit more.
Let me just about. One of the things that I'm madly in love with a coach of Power Monkey, a weightlifting coach. Her name is Shirley Hayworth.
Everybody is. Everybody is. Yeah.
And I just would like to weightlifting just to spend more time with Cheryl.
you know that Cheryl is Chad's co-host on the USA Weightlifting podcast as well.
I know everything that is publicly to know from Cheryl. I know.
Yeah. Well, what we're gonna do then, Dave, is we'll have Cheryl and Facundo on together next time, and then we'll just drink. We'll just drink the whole time.
Oh yeah, right. She's more of a beer gal, I think. But I think she's more like probably. Yeah,
I think she likes whiskey too.
Yeah,
bourbon.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. We can get some bourbon. Facundo, you can have your martinis. Chad, you can have your Shiner box.
Dos Equis, Shiner, Dos Equis, whatever. I'll drink Dos Equis just for Facundo.
Yeah, good.
But
it's understandable though. As long as it wasn't because of Chad, as long as you weren't picking weightlifting because of Chad, because it's Cheryl, I'm fine with that. Okay.
Absolutely. No, good reasoning for sure. And I'm sure that service had a little something to do with that. So any books that you've come across here recently, Facundo, that you'd recommend to the listeners?
Well, to be honest, I have a daughter of 4 years. So most of my books are like 4-year books, we just get away from the baby shark stage that actually Dave introduced us to the baby shark. So, but
I apologize.
Some weeks ago, I read again one of my favorite books, which is called The Perfume by Patrick Susskind. It's a fantastic book. They made a movie. The movie was not so successful, but I recommend you The Perfume. It's the story of a guy who has this capacity of smelling the human soul. Actually.
Wow.
And it's a very psychological work, and it's a fantastic piece. But then, because he cannot have it, he becomes a serial killer.
Wow. Well, wouldn't that be a
Sorry.
superpower to have, huh?
Yeah, these superpowers are always dangerous, though, Chad. You
Yeah.
know, they,
Yeah.
yeah.
True. Well, honestly, I was good with the baby shark recommendation. We could have left it at that. That's a great one. We'll add that one to the list too, for sure.
You just need to make another baby then, Chad.
No,
and you go back immediately to baby shark.
I have a 1-year-old, and we have another thing that's singing that song all day in here, and I can't stand it. It's enough of it.
Well, Facundo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like Dave said, we could talk to you for a few more hours, and we do need to have that part 2. We'll bring Cheryl along with you and have a good time for sure. But do you have anything coming up you want folks to know about? Any parting words for the listeners?
No, I mean, I'm working on many projects that are going to be happening. I think that one have you involved, but we cannot say much at this stage.
Both of us.
Sorry?
Both of us.
Both of you, yeah?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be programming for the Asian CrossFit Championship in China. Then we're making a very big competition there. Another one in the UK, and nothing. I mean, just honestly keep learning. And my biggest CrossFit dream would be actually to make it to Power Monkey very soon.
Very, very soon. As soon as you can get on a plane and come out,
you'll be surprised.
Hey, are we going to be surprised here in next week? I don't know.
Life is special.
That would be a very welcome surprise if you can pull that off. So,
but anyways, before letting you go, guys, it's me really. I know that I try to express over and over my gratitude to your work, Dave, especially Chad. I adore you too, but Dave's been a good friend of mine for many years. Yep. His incredible wife, I'm a big fan. There was a point where Dave used to think that I like him because of Sadie. Actually,
no, I still think
I can see that. I can see.
Actually,
I'm still sure that that's the reason.
That's the only reason I still tolerate Dave myself. So I get it.
Yeah, just because. No, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for everything you guys do for the CrossFit world, for sharing with a passion that I've not seen very often in other coaches. Your expertise, your love for the sport. The way you commit and the compromises you take to make your work what it is. I really want to thank you for that and for all the chances you've given me and many of the other people that have been blessed by being part of the Power Monkey family.
Well, thank you, Facundo. We love you. We are so appreciative that you're part of our family, and like we said, we can't wait to see you again very, very soon.
Part 2, I'm going to put in my agenda.
Yes, put it on. And we'll do it at a time when it's noon over here, so I can now just start drinking. So I'll make sure I have a drink ready to go.
Yeah,
we'll do noon Pacific time, so I feel comfortable. Anything before noon is a little awkward, but very, very soon. And we also want to thank our sponsor, True Coach, one more time. Please don't forget, new customers can get 50% off their first month with the promo code PowerMonkey50. That's again POWER Monkey50. Check out True Coach today.
To our listeners, as always, guys, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to PowerMonkeyFitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also, check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. Until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.
Athletes. And after that, they called me from CrossFit HQ to start writing articles like an athlete scout. So Yannick Koski, I think, has a future. This is good. This is bad. And that's how I started. And that what led me to be a volunteer at the games. And